Here we are at the end of the alphabet. It's been a long time coming. Do you remember what the world was like before we started this podcast? Oh aye, a time when you could plug your headphones into your iPhone. And Obama was still president. Before Captain America had his Civil War, and we first saw Spider-Man in a movie. Again. It was before I ever read a Warrior Cats book. And Doctor Who was a man. Weird.
Girls, what are you talking about? It was only 3 years ago. Come on, let's get ready to record.
Hey, do you remember when he had hair? Nah.
I'm Mark Adams and welcome to episode 36 of Marksmess Podcast. We're with my daughters Charlotte and Catherine.
I tried to warn you. Catherine and Charlotte. Charlotte and Catherine. Catherine and Charlotte. Charlotte and Catherine.
We look at the world of geekery using the alphabet as our guide, and we've arrived there. We are at the end of the alphabet. We are at...
Z!
Thank you very much, girls. We're going to look at three things, beginning with Z. We are not going to be looking at zombies, because none of us are really into horror. And we're not going to look at Zenith, the 2000 AD superhero, even though it was one of my first characters that I met when I first started collecting 2000 AD. Thank you, Grant Morrison, back in 1987. We're going to be looking at three different things. Later on, we'll be talking to you about a competition to celebrate the end of our alphabet.
Ooh.
And you'll have to contact us about that competition via email.
At mymarksmess@gmail.com.
On Twitter.
A Marksmess Podcast without the T.
On our webpage, marksmesspodcast.blogspot.com, and our Facebook page.
Marksmess Podcast.
All that out of the way, shall we just go straight into our first Z?
Oh,
These Zs are going to come from Charlotte's love of Percy Jackson, Catherine's obsession with rewatching Doctor Who again and again and again, and my finding a 100-year-old hero. So Charlotte, tell us about your Z.
Well, my Z is Zeus.
Who is Zeus?
He is a Greek god, or otherwise known as in his Roman form as Jupiter.
Right, so tell us about Zeus, especially within the Percy Jackson universe.
Well, he was Lord of the Sky, Justice, Lightning, and Honor.
And who is he to Percy Jackson?
His uncle.
His uncle, okay.
Yeah.
Who's Percy Jackson's dad then?
Poseidon.
Beside who?
Poseidon.
Okay, that's the god of water.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
The sea, technically. Zeus was king of the gods, so he was.
Okay.
He ruled over all the gods.
Okay, what does he do in the books?
Well, in the very first book, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, so someone steals Zeus's bolt of lightning, well, he had made by some Cyclops, who was then killed by Apollo. And
Who's Apollo?
Zeus's son. Apollo and Artemis are Zeus's twins. Apollo's the god of archery, music, healing, all that pizzazz. And Artemis is the goddess of, like, hunting and archery as well, and stuff like that. Has her own...
Well, so Artemis is a lady god?
A goddess.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to you, so I didn't hear that bit.
Zeus is also one of the big three. So the big three are Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades, and they're the ones that have the most power.
Now, I know that Hades is a god of the underworld.
Yes.
And within Greek mythology, that's quite a big thing with the river Styx.
Yeah.
See how much I know there?
And if, like, one of the gods has a demigod, so like a child of a human, then they're considered very powerful and they attract the monsters, like, the most. So in Camp Half-Blood, where Percy Jackson kind of half lives, which is a camp that's safe for half-bloods.
Basically Hogwarts.
Yeah. There's 3 cabins for, like, one for each of the gods, and they're not really occupied that much. Because they made a treaty where they're not supposed to have children, but then they all broke it.
Oh, right, yeah. When there's all sorts of things, like, I think it was Zeus became a swan so he could woo a woman. When would you go out with a swan?
No.
No.
His weapon is his master bolt.
So the lightning from Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief?
Yeah. And his birthplace is Mount Ida.
Mount Ida? I thought it was Mount Olympus. I see. I don't know that much about the background to Greek gods. Most of what I know is from Marvel Comics, so that doesn't help when you've got Hercules.
I think his parents were Gaia and Kronos, who both turned evil and were both killed while Gaia was put to sleep, and then Kronos was chopped up into bits and killed again.
How does Zeus interact with Percy?
Well, if someone curses at the gods or something like that, all you hear is a rumble in the sky. And that means just not happy with that.
Right, but does he ever meet Percy?
Percy has been up to Mount Olympus where all the gods are, and he was offered to be a god, but he turned it down.
Oh, I did not know that. All I know is from the two movies.
The movies are rubbish.
Right, really? You tend to find that with books and movies. Very rarely will you get a book that is... or a movie that is as good as a book.
Because there's so many things that were wrong.
Well, there's so many things they have to change, and so many things they change for other reasons, like cost and stuff like that.
No, but one of them was that one of the main characters, Annabeth, her hair was blonde, and then the movie it was brown. And one of the key things was it was blonde.
Well, it was key. It was an important part.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlotte. It's interesting to see. I've never actually read a Percy Jackson book. I know your mother has, and she said, yes, they were books. So thank you very much for all that research. How many books have you read of it now?
I'm on the 12th.
12th?
Yeah, it's about the god Apollo, so he has a big row with his father Zeus, and then he's put down to earth as a mortal with no god abilities at all. So then he's trying to
So you would definitely recommend the Percy Jackson books.
Mm-hmm.
Who are they by?
Rick Riordan.
That's good. And have you met Hercules yet?
Yes, they met Hercules and he was very grumpy.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Charlotte. Right. Over to Catherine for her Z. Now, it's a Doctor Who related one. Would you like to tell us what Z you're going to do? I'm sure Doctor Who fans will already know this.
It's a Zygon.
A Zygon. Oh, yes. I have met Zygons before in Doctor Who. They've been in New Who, but you're going to tell us a bit more about them.
They're aliens that can shapeshift to look like someone else, but they have to keep the person that they're impersonating alive.
Well, that's good news for the person they're impersonating. Now, where did you first see them?
The Day of the Doctor.
And that was the one with the 3 doctors, including the War Doctor.
Yeah.
And who was the first person they impersonated in that?
Queen Elizabeth.
Right. And
It was her horse.
Oh, that was Queen Elizabeth's horse. I forgot about that.
So he had the buzzy thing, and then he was just like, hi, you're an alien, but it was actually the horse.
And he thought it was a rabbit at one point.
Yeah.
When did they first come into Doctor Who?
In 1975 in Terror of the Zygons.
So that was the Tom Baker Doctor.
Yeah.
Did you know that these are David Tennant's favourite monster when he was doing Doctor Who?
Yes.
Do you like Zygons?
Yeah. Yeah, they're cool.
They're cool. So how are they defeated? Have they got one weakness, or is it just with cunning and guile?
Just have to kill them.
Just have to. You're very vicious. I don't think you'd make a Doctor Who companion, because he'd come across the Zygons, and he'd say, "Oh, we have to convince them and manipulate them," and you go,
"Sword and slash your head off."
A sword? You're in the TARDIS. Get a ray gun. If you were to have a top 5 villains of Doctor Who that you've seen, would they be in the top 5?
I guess.
So who would your top 5 be?
Tim Shaw, because I like his name.
Tim Shaw?
The Cybermen are cool. The Daleks.
You can't have a top 5 villains of Doctor Who without the Daleks.
Yeah. I like the Silence, because it's kind of weird. Wait, how many is that? That's 4, isn't it?
That's 4. Is there something that would knock the Zygons out?
I also liked I can't remember what they're called, but they're in Silence in the Library, the shadow things.
Oh, yes.
Some fancy name.
Yeah, there usually is some fancy name. I have to say, the Zygons aren't really my favourite. I didn't really know them from when I was young, because they came in kind of before I was watching Doctor Who, and they are slimy and creepy, and they've got these suckers that always remind me of an octopus's tentacle.
They're cool because they have a cool shape, and then they've got really big foreheads.
I imagine if they tried to hug each other, They just get stuck.
Oh yeah, it's like Lego or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you get these like pens which are like that.
With wee sucky bits.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's a condition that fathers get of where they get sucker toys, try and stick them in their forehead and have this ring on them? I remember doing that with your toys.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to watch Terror of the Zygons sometime? Their first appearance?
The first ones, they have even bigger heads.
Yeah, they didn't go for much of a redesign, but more so better prosthetics.
Yeah, because in the older ones, it's more just like someone with a massive big hat, but now it's just like someone's like full face.
Anyway, thank you very much for bringing us the Zygons and our terror of them. We are going to take a break now, and when we come back, we're going to look at a hero who is 100 years old this year. Only found out that when I did my research. So we'll see you in a minute or two. Listen to these promos of some great podcasts. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
You like cheap comic books, right? Well, I'm Professor Allen, and I talk about cheap comic books on the Quarterbin Podcast. In every episode, I'll dissect a single comic from my collection, as long as I paid no more than 25 cents for the issue. Forget about $4 new comics that you can read in 4 minutes, or crossover events that can cost $100 to collect. Join me in the Quarter Bin, where even bad comics are a bargain, and good ones are a steal. The Quarter Bin Podcast is part of the Relatively Geeky Podcast Network. Visit us at relativelygeekypodcast.blogspot.com or search Relatively Geeky or Quarterbin Podcast in iTunes. I guarantee it'll be worth every penny.
Hi, I'm Ruth.
And I'm Darren of the Rad Adventures Network.
We're a married couple who enjoy great stories of all kinds, including adventures, mysteries, science fiction, and fantasy.
Please join us for a variety of podcasts focused on a range of pop culture topics.
Trekker Talk is about 23rd century bounty hunter Mercy St. Clair from the comic Trekker by writer and artist Ron Randall. It's a blend of classic sci-fi adventures and noir mysteries set in a retro future.
Xenozoic Xenophiles is about the comic Xenozoic Tales by writer and artist Mark Schultz. It's a post-apocalyptic adventure series filled with Cadillacs and dinosaurs.
Warlord Worlds covers the many comics of writer and artist Mike Grell, including The Warlord, John Sable, Green Arrow, and the Legion of Superheroes.
Sensational Sleuths, where we talk about favorite mystery novels, movies, and TV shows.
Fantastic Fantasies, where we share our favorite fantasy films and books.
And Amazing Adventures, where we discuss action-packed adventure stories.
Listen on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Or visit radadventuresnetwork.com to find all of our shows and links to our social media pages.
That's RAD, R-A-D, which is short for Ruth and Darren.
Welcome back. My hero that I chose is 100 years old this year. When I was your age, on Saturday mornings on TV, especially across the summer, there were movies, and they were old movies, black and white.
No! Was your TV not in black and white anyway?
I'm not that old. I can't remember us having a black and white TV. I only remember the colour TV. We had a portable that was black and white.
Why don't we have a portable TV? I didn't even know you could get.
You've got phones that will play anything from anywhere around the world, and you want a TV.
You need data and service.
But you've got. I mean, when I say portable TV, it still had to be plugged into the wall.
How is it portable then?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't this heavy thing that you broke your back. No, not a flat screen TV. This was huge. This was the anti-burglar device in it was the fact that it took about 2 men to carry. I can't believe you two think, oh, I wish I had a portable TV.
Yeah, but you get those ones nowadays where you just put a CD and then you can watch stuff in the car.
You can watch stuff on your phone in the car.
Yeah, but you can't watch a DVD.
That's a portable DVD.
There we go, we need a portable DVD, correct?
Just I did work on this. Can I?
Hurry up, then.
I did work as well. I found a good website.
She went to Wikipedia.
Yeah,
Just the one I'm talking about was he appeared in a story called The Curse of Capistrano, and it was in an anthology series called All Story Weekly. 100 or so years ago, and quite a few years before that, they would have had these weekly magazines with serialized stories in it. Sherlock Holmes was a bit like that. It was in a newspaper, but it was like that. And this was by a pulp writer called Johnston Macaulay. A pulp? Do you know what a pulp novel is?
No.
Right. If you write a novel that's only meant to be read and thrown away, not read and kept, it would be thrown away and then recycled. In other words, the paper in it would be turned to mush, to pulp, and then made into paper again so they could print more. The quality of
a newspaper.
Well, the quality of the paper was pretty bad, so it wasn't written to be kept. It was cheap entertainment.
Why don't they just sell it to someone else and then the same book can be passed on?
Yeah, but then the publisher doesn't get the money. Yeah, see?
Not like a newspaper, kind of.
Yeah, but like a newspaper print, the old newspaper stuff and the old stuff comic books were printed on, which is why older comics are scarcer, because they weren't printed to be kept for a long time. Mm-hmm. Kids would throw them away, pass them on to other people, and that type of thing, which is why really old comic books are really expensive, because they weren't kept.
They're also old.
In this story, The Curse of Capistrano, we first met the hero Zorro. Have you ever heard of Zorro?
No.
Ah. This was set in Spanish California between 1769 and 1821. Spain owned California at that time.
What?
It wasn't always American. It wasn't always independent from other countries. Mexico would have been owned by Spain and things like that. So they were owned by Spain. So they had to sail all the way around the bottom of America to get there. He was a masked vigilante who had a sword, a rapier sword. That's one of the bendy ones that you see people doing sword fights with. Okay. And his mark with the sword, he would go whack, 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 and he put a Z on a tree, on a wall, on somebody's backside.
That's kind of giving it away.
Yeah, but his name, he wasn't really Zorro. He wore a mask and a hat and a cape, and
once they find out it, like, that is him, then they know who it is for all of them.
All of who?
Say he's done 10 crimes, right? And they find out for one of the crimes, oh, that's this person. Then they know who did all of the crimes because he marked all of the crimes with his Z.
Well, one thing there, he wasn't a criminal. He worked for the people, like Robin Hood. Robin Hood may have stolen...
He was a criminal to the law.
He was a criminal to the law, exactly.
Like Batman.
Ah, like Batman. That we're going to get there in a wee minute. You already jumped ahead of me in that, but that's good. He wore a mask to hide his eyes. He wore a hat to cover himself a bit more, a cape, all black outfit, and he rode a black stallion called Tornado.
Is that a horse?
It is a horse, and it's a pretty cool horse. He was wanted by the authorities, and he helped the poor. He tried to get people their rights in California in those days. In 1919, the first story of Zorro came out, and the very next year, a film of Zorro came out with Douglas Fairbanks, who was an action-adventure hero in the old non-talkie movies, the silent movies.
There were silent movies? What's the point of that?
The talkies came along in the 1920s. They were called the talkies.
Just read a book.
Okay, before a certain time, you only had the picture. You didn't have
You had a wee man in the corner on the piano going, blah, 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 improvising.
Yeah, the Charlie Chaplin movies, Buster Keaton movies. Catherine has just gone into this is her worst nightmare. And then slowly they got the technology to have sound and picture synchronized in it, because you could have recorded
about that if you do GCSE history.
Yeah, you could have recorded as well as film, but they weren't synchronized, so the mouth wouldn't have been moving at the same time.
So, like, if you're watching a movie, you'd just be sitting there in silence.
Well, you had to do everything in actions, and sometimes there'd be sort of word cards come up to explain a wee bit. Later on, we'll watch something that is a silent movie. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes. Yes. I'm going to force you. Blaine Downer would be horrified at you guys.
Who's that?
He's a guy who does a podcast about movies.
Oh.
And he would be horrified. I have this uphill struggle with these two. Anytime we watch an older movie, we're talking about 1980s here, they say, is it in colour or is it in black and white? I mean, come on.
Black and white movies are boring. There's nothing
are.
interesting.
They're not... Oh, girls, there's
You
some...
can't tell if that's a white dress or a red dress.
You can. If it's a white dress, it'll be white. If it's a red dress, it will be grey.
If it's a blue dress or a red dress.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Name me one story that matters whether it was a blue dress or a red dress.
The boy in the dress.
That doesn't matter.
It says what colour dress he wore.
But it doesn't matter what colour dress he wore.
Oh, boy,
Tell me why it mattered. Didn't matter. No.
Little Red Riding Hood. There you go. That matters.
There's a clue in her name.
Yeah, but you need to see it.
Yeah, but she doesn't have a ride. Wait, well, what's a riding hood?
Yeah, but it's her cloak's red, not just her hood.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll get that because it's the same shade of grey the whole way down.
No.
No, but what about shade? And then you might think it's a different colour.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway.
And to see hair colour. That's
Yeah,
important.
and eye colour.
And
Why? Okay, name me a movie that matters.
Goldilocks.
You know by the name.
wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Cinderella.
What does it matter the colour?
Because she says she has blonde hair.
What movies about aliens? They might. You won't. you won't know that they won't have different coloured skin or green skin or something. You wouldn't know that Tim Shaw was blue and had teeth in his face. They'll all be the same colour. You would see the teeth. Well, you wouldn't recognise that they're teeth.
But you'd still know he's an alien because of the teeth.
Yeah, but you wouldn't recognise their teeth. They might as well just be little polka dots.
But they talk about being teeth.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
They say, not show. Yeah. Can I get back to Zorro?
No.
Right, back to Zorro. Became incredibly popular from the 1920s because of the movies. And if you think about things like Percy Jackson became popular because of the movies, Harry Potter became even more popular because of the movies. And all those stories, if you have a movie of it, it will sell more books. And there were seems to be hundreds of books written by Johnston McCulley. I did like it because it's swashbuckling, it's heroism. In fact, the last movie that was made was in 2005, so it was colour. And there was one in 1998, The Mark of Zorro, with Anthony Hopkins as an elder Zorro. The guy who played Puss in Boots in Shrek, he played Zorro, which is a Puss in Boots type character.
Wasn't he like Italian or French or something?
More of a Spanish-speaking person.
So it's like Ant-Man.
Yes.
The older Ant-Man teaches the younger Ant-Man to do what all the older Ant-Man did, but not make the same mistakes as the older Ant-Man.
I've just realised Ant-Man is just a remake of Mark of Zorro from 1998. Blimey, that's blown my mind. But someday, in one of our movie nights, we're going to watch the Mark of Zorro. Sorry, that was the Mask of Zorro, not the Mark of Zorro. Sorry about that. Zorro wasn't his full-time job. He was Don Diego, who was like a lord of the land, so he's quite a posh guy. And he was a bit of a sort of, I say, chaps, let's all sit down and have tea in the afternoon. So he was, but I don't know how to say that in Spanish.
See.
I say yo, chapio. I honestly don't know Spanish. I apologise to any Spanish speakers out there.
Does he wear a monocle thing?
He doesn't wear a monocle, but he'd hang about with people like that, and he wouldn't be very adventurous. But at night, when he donned the mask and took up the sword, he would be El Zorro.
So he's like a werewolf.
No, he just changed clothes. He'd be like somebody who goes out at night and changes clothes to go out. He would be heavily influenced by Robin Hood, helping the poor against tyrannical rich people. And things like the Scarlet Pimpernel, who was... Stop laughing at Pimpernel. It's a flower.
Yeah, but it sounds funny.
who was written by Baroness Orczy in 1905 as another hero who would be one person pretending to be another. Who does it remind you of, Catherine? Who did you mention earlier?
Batman.
Yeah, it was influential on Batman, who came out 20 years later in 1939. So of this millionaire guy who then went out at night dressed in black and helped people.
A millionaire, you can only afford a cave.
Oh, the bat part of him. The cave was below a mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had cars and the gadgets.
A bat.
Chicks dig the gadgets. That is my Zorro, and we will, as a family, watch Mask of Zorro.
No.
Oh, we will.
No.
Oh, yes, we
You
will.
forced us to watch Crocodile Dundee.
Yes, but there's also... It's a good
I just
movie.
realised I said that in a very thick accent. Crocodile Dundee.
But there's also other good movies you watched and you thought they were great.
Like what?
Jumanji.
That was good.
Yeah,
That's
but
about it. Yeah, that's it.
Gremlins.
No.
You didn't like Gremlins?
No,
Come on, man.
Alright.
it's really old.
Ah, see the list of movies I want you two to watch.
The hair in the old ones are really weird.
Yeah, because it was the 80s.
I think anything.
Do you have hair like that, mate?
I think
I had hair.
anything,
I had hair.
anything below the 1990s is a bit. Is,
What?
no, anything below the 1990s is hit or miss.
Is what? Horrendous?
Hit or miss.
Hit or miss. I finished. Well, that's the thing. I have to remember that if I watch something from the 1950s, that's like you watching something from the 1980s. So,
I mean, the 2000s ones aren't bad. I quite like them.
Some of them.
we'll see. Our movie nights are good because there's an intermission in the middle while we get snacks, and that's the only way I get these two to watch them. Thank you very much for staying with me with that. And
If you did.
well, I'm talking about you two.
Alright.
Basically, you had to have locked the door and you had to stay. Okay, and now our last bit. We are going to have a competition. We want to thank you, our listeners, for being with us throughout our alphabetical odyssey. You have been with us as the girls' tastes have developed and changed. Some of the things they liked those 3 years ago have fallen by the wayside, and other things have been picked up. Can you remember any of the things that you used to like that you've grown out of now?
I used to watch Blue Peter.
You used to watch it a lot. What about you, Catherine?
I used to watch Scooby-Doo.
Yep, not so much now.
Still like it though.
Yeah, but a lot of these things you're allowed to like into adulthood, or else I wouldn't be able to do this podcast.
You like it still.
Yes, I do. Of course I do. Scooby-Doo. Gordon, I actually did watch, there's a program called Supernatural, which is about these two guys who go out hunting supernatural things.
Tried to make me watch that one.
The crossover with Scooby-Doo, it was hilarious.
I saw that one.
Yeah, that was good. This is the only episode of Supernatural I've ever seen. Anyway, we want to thank you, our listener, and we want to thank you with the opportunity of winning our competition of a goodie bag. So it's not going to be like an iPhone or an iPad. It's going to be like a packet of crisps and some sweeties or something like that, and some comics and stuff like that.
Northern Ireland delicacies.
Yeah, and we'll tailor it to where you are. So if you're from Northern Ireland, no point sending you Northern Irish stuff. So over the past 3 years, we've had 10 cold openings to our episodes. That's the bit that we did before the music started. And these were wee skits that we writ and performed before the opening music.
You wrote.
We writ.
Wrote.
You wrote, I writ.
You wrote.
I writ. All we want you to do is to let us know what your favourite one is. What your favourite cold opening that we did was. Drop us an email or through social media and let us know. Now, you may be wondering which of the cold openings there were, and you can go back and listen to them. Now, the very first one we did was...
Number 2.
In episode 2, where we had the geek letter B, and the girls did their very British accents.
Episode 7.
Which was the geek letter F to the future, and the girls did a bit of time travelling.
Episode 10.
Which was the geek letter H, which we had a special guest as Santa Claus. And if you're into your quarter bins, you'll know who that is.
Episode 15.
Where we had Marvel movies and music, We had our rendition of the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 trailer,
Episode 18.
where we talked about parents, and we had special guests of Caitlin Riona,
Episode 22.
which was our magnificent Asifmus Carl, our pantomime, which had many, many guests, but we asked you to join us at the panto,
Episode 23.
which was the geek letter S, and we did our tribute to SpongeBob with my singing. Who doesn't like that?
Episode 29.
Which was our Edinburgh adventure, and the girls were doing their traveller's checklist,
Episode 31.
which was me talking about Rocky with Ricky, and our cold opening was about the girls not being able to be in that episode. And of course, this is the 10th episode, and you can go back to the start and listen to that. So all you have to do is to contact us by the 22nd of August for a chance to win this exclusive goodie bag sent right to your door.
And it shall be sent before Christmas.
It will be sent before Christmas, but,
Might not get there before Christmas.
well, we didn't say which Christmas.
Yeah.
No, what was sent at the end of the summer, and this is just a thank you to all our listeners, and if you win, you're representing all the listeners. But we do want to thank you for being with us. And this is not the end of our podcasting. We will continue to podcast until the girls are too embarrassed to be heard with me. And you can contact us by,
Email at mymarksmess@gmail.com.
or on social media on Twitter,
At Marksmess Podcast without the T.
our webpage marksmesspodcasts.blogspot.com, or on our Facebook page.
Marksmess Podcast.
So just contact us with your favourite cold opening that we have, and those will be on social media. Those will be on our social media pages, so you can have another look at them. This has been Marksmess Podcast.
Really?
Brought to you by the letter.
Said.
Thank you to Josh Woodward of joshwoodward.com for our title music, and we will be back in July with a slightly differing format that maybe will work, because we can't do the alphabet anymore. We'll have to do something else. Come back and the alphabet. Can you say the alphabet backwards?
Z, Y, X, W, U, T, S. I don't know the rest.
That's okay, because this was starting to be boring.
Or we could do numbers.
We could do numbers. So what would one be?
One group of tangerines.
Are you really doing? Are you making a new 12 days of Christmas? On the first day of podcasting, Marksmess brought to me
Bag of tangerine.
one bag of tangerines. Anyway, so thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Marksmess Podcast.